Good morning once again, and thank you to everyone who's joined us today for our webinar, The Evolving Reality for Social Gatherings. This is our second webinar in our latest webinar series that's focused on discretionary consumer behavior and the implications for capturing demand as it continues to shift amid COVID. For today's webinar, we welcome special guest Victor Choi, CEO of Evite, for a discussion with David Morrow, VP Global Marketing at ADARA. Before we begin our discussion, Carolyn Corda, Chief Marketing Officer at ADARA, will share the latest data and insights. Carolyn Corda is an industry leader in customer data and predictive intelligence. As the CMO of ADARA, she is responsible for aligning the brand with the company's expanding vision and growth goals. Prior to ADARA, she was managing director at Accenture, where she led the applied intelligence practice for the travel sector. Before that role, Carolyn was a senior executive at Epsilon with responsibility for developing and launching new data solutions. With that, I hand it over to Carolyn to begin our webinar today.
Thank you, Niharika, and welcome all. We'll start with a few notes on our COVID Resource Center, then we'll dive into our latest trends. First, a reminder, all the slides you're seeing will be sent out after the webinar. For those who aren't familiar with ADARA, you might wonder where the data I'm presenting today comes from. We have over 270 consumer brands that share their data with us, including some you likely recognize: United, Marriott, Singapore Airlines, and Travelport. We're focusing today on entertainment events and social gatherings. ADARA's data for these trends come from partners such as Ticketmaster, OpenTable, Punchbowl, and the much esteemed Evite, whose CEO will be joining us in just a few minutes. As a result, we have a lot of data across a spectrum of consumer behavior. To give you an idea of the breadth, for travel, we typically see over 14 billion searches a year and almost 1 billion air and hotel bookings. We're able to dive deep on transaction behavior, as most of our 1 billion profiles have on average 30 data points per profile. We've made a lot of our trend data available on our website. It's organized by region: US, EMEA, and APAC. You'll see the URL here so you can access the data yourself. We do update it daily, so check back for the latest. The insights you're seeing today have been developed by ADARA's brilliant analytics team. Of course, you're welcome to reach out to them if you're interested in custom reports and insights. You'll find it easy with a purple request button. Also, if you do have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat box. As we go through the slides, I encourage you to think about the findings on two levels. One, what are the implications for your business today? And two, how do the findings change your view of the overall pace of recovery? For the last slide that I'll offer, we'll take a look at ADARA's scorecard for how consumers in general are tracking toward the new normal. As Niharika mentioned, this session today is the second in a series focused on discretionary consumer behavior. We've been expanding our scope to look at a wider array of behavior as a way of understanding consumer vitality. We chose that term, vitality, to connote the financial capability to spend on dining, entertainment, travel, along with big ticket items such as cars and houses, as a way of capturing the concept of confidence in health protections and safety as consumers engage more outside the home. This journey map also reflects ADARA's expanding data set. Just yesterday, we announced our newest consortium. It's for home buyer data. It provides the industry's first predictive home buying intent data. On the slide here, we're charting the customer's adaptation to the new normal as a set of stages, from early recovery activities such as dining, staying at hotels, flying, along with other signals of financial strength, such as shopping, home improvement, and auto purchases. For each topic, each session, we'll be exploring the drivers and implications of the trends, and we'll be showcasing experts in that industry. Today, we're exploring social gathering and entertainment, and the weeks to come, we'll address each of these, as you see here, that it ends with cruises. We're putting a stake in the ground that when travelers are comfortable taking a cruise, when consumers are comfortable with cruising, we'll have transitioned to a new version of normal. First, we'll be exploring entertainment events, concerts, plays, and sporting events. Many of these events have been reformatted to allow social distancing or shifted to smaller venues. We've got information to answer 4 critical questions on geographic variations. Are some regions recovering faster? On differences by age. And also, since we have travel patterns, we've segmented the market by travel behavior, previous travel behavior, And finally, we'll take a look at the type of entertainment that's gaining traction. First, taking a regional view, we note that while demand is down significantly from the start of the year, the pre-COVID period, there is a regional difference in booking behavior that's evident over the past couple of weeks. This chart shows the volume of entertainment bookings indexed to the start of the year. For simplicity, we started the week of March 16th when the volume dropped significantly due to COVID. You can see a recent upturn that reflects strong acceleration in the West, over 100% increase over the previous week, and strong growth in the Northeast, which is at 29%. The South is pretty stable at 6% growth, and the Midwest has a decreasing rate, negative 15%. There are a few hypotheses to explain the variations. One would be that the Midwest peaked early, back in early May. You see the light blue spiking up, and that coincided with the NFL tickets going on sale. Next, we explored whether there were differences in terms of the age groups that were booking tickets. We saw only very slight shifts, with a skew favoring older adults between the ages of 40 and 64, with a difference coming at the expense of those between 30 and 39. We divided the year into 4 time periods: pre-COVID, January 1st to 15 March, COVID, 16 to 30 March, the height of the shelter in place, early uptrend, which is 1 May to 15 May, and the current period, 16 May to July 21st. Each of the 4 columns here shows the proportion of bookings for entertainment events, those concerts, sporting events, by 5 age groups from 20 years old to 65. Given that COVID has affected older people more severely, you might have expected a drop in the proportion of bookings made by older age groups. Yet they're the ones that actually posted a slight increase. The takeaway for marketers in our audience today is to question your assumptions. Don't stop marketing to those that may seem more vulnerable. They're behaving in a way that suggests more resilience than you might expect. ADARA, of course, has a wealth of data on travel behavior. We're able to look at last year's travel patterns for individual profiles and categorize them into segments ranging from infrequent travelers all the way to road warriors, those taking multiple trips a month. Our hypothesis was that since road warriors were no longer traveling as intensively, they'd be the ones to book more entertainment. What do you all think? Did we prove that hypothesis? Nope. It turns out road warriors, and in fact, all types of travelers, including both leisure and business travelers, haven't shifted their entertainment habits a bit. When we look at all 4 periods again across 2020, you see that the height of each section of the stacked column stayed very constant across time, suggesting that even as people had their travel patterns disrupted, it didn't impact their demand for entertainment. There have been anecdotes about former road warriors using the increased time at home to tackle home improvement projects. With our new home buyer and renovator database, we'll be drilling into that trend in an upcoming webinar. For the last trend, looking at entertainment events, we explore the type of event that is growing in popularity. Again, you see the 4 time periods of 2020 from pre-COVID, column on the far left, to the current period, the column on the far right. We organize the events into 4 buckets. Miscellaneous. Now, the most popular event in this category is a drive-in showing of the movie Jurassic Park. We also have family events. #1 selling spot is the Dude Perfect Tour, which showcases athletic stunts and tricks. The dark purple is arts and theater. Top ticket here is Hamilton. For sports, the top event is rodeo, and for music, it's Harry Styles. We do see tremendous variation across time, with significant variation between sporting events in turquoise and music in purple. You can see how it bounces back and forth across time in terms of the proportions of those stacked columns. These changes across time reflect changing protocols for large gatherings, as well as some seasonal patterns. In a few minutes, Victor will be sharing slides showing some very interesting trends on the events Evite has on its platform, it supports. We took a look at the data ADARA has in this category to track regional trends, past travel behavior, again comparing road warriors to infrequent travelers, and lastly, changes over the last few months on the distance that people are between the event venue, the location of the event, and the host location. This track here This chart here tracks the volume of social invitations issued, such as those on the Evite and other invitation platforms. We index them to the volume at the start of 2020. You can see that the behavior, the slopes of the 4 lines, act in tandem from January up until that big drop in March. Then there's a fair bit of divergence, particularly in the South, that's in pink, from March into July. Focusing in just on the past couple of weeks from June 29th onward, the West in green, the Northeast in purple, and the Midwest in blue are all on a similar trajectory. The South has become more aligned, though not picking up quite as much as the other regions. It's a little flatter. In contrast to what we saw for entertainment events, for social gatherings, we did detect a slight increase in activity for formerly infrequent travelers. That's the pink section, from the pre-COVID column on the far left to the current period column on the far right. We've drawn a dotted gray line to highlight the increase in the proportion of invitations being issued by those that were infrequent travelers last year. Interestingly, you can see the proportion creeps up over time. One explanation would be that those that we saw traveling infrequently were primarily leisure travelers, taking vacations to visit friends and family. And these social events are now a substitute for those activities. For our last slide on social invitations, we track the distance between the host of the event and the event venue. We created 3 different distance bands. Local is in pink, that's less than 50 miles. Near in purple is between 50 and 500 miles, and distant in green is more than 500 miles away. We did see a small uptick just in the past couple of months in the distant events, presumably reflecting people getting more comfortable with traveling. Victor has some enlightening data from Evite that can further explain how consumer behavior is shifting. From our daily travel trend tracker, what we've been noticing, just to shift to travel for one slide, what we've been noticing over the past few weeks is the predominance of short booking windows. Flights and hotels booked for trips that will be taken in the next 15 days. In the chart on the left, you see the booking volume of US flights. They're broken down by booking window. The pink line is for those near-term bookings within 15 days. The spikes reflect a weekly pattern and reveal that since early May, there's been a very consistent pattern for business air travel. Now, typically, business travel is booked more spontaneously, so it's interesting to note that the near-term booking horizon is also the most popular for leisure hotel bookings. That's the chart on the right. Again, the pink line is bookings for hotel stays in the next 2 weeks. The purple line is for trips 16 to 30 days out, and the turquoise line is for bookings 31 to 60 days out. Particularly for hotels, this represents a shift from mid-March, the mid-March to April period, when very few bookings were being made, and if they were for 91 days and more out. That's that amber line you see there in the middle of the time period. While it's a positive sign to see the regularity of the patterns, air bookings are still down significantly, 79% for business and 67% for leisure. To help sum up the trends we just shared and to give you an overall sense of consumer behavior, we've created the scorecard. Going row by row, we're rating event entertainment, those concerts, sporting events, and theater and arts, as neutral. While it's a positive sign to see consistency in booking patterns across regions and ages, the volume of overall bookings are still way off compared to the beginning of the year. For social gatherings, we're rating consumer behavior as positive due to the pace of recovery and that growing interest in distant events, those more than 500 miles between the host and the venue, the location of the event. And travel continues to be a negative as the pandemic continues to impact both business and leisure travel, particularly flights. For our overall rating, we've kept it the same from last time, rating it slightly pessimistic based on the trends we've shared today. Let me ask, how does that compare with your assessment? Consider what consumer behaviors are your markers for recovery, and how are you tracking against your assumptions on the pace of recovery? That covers our trends. I'll turn it now over to David.